I grew up in a town called Dorvale. From the outside, it looks almost perfect. White fences, cut grass, church bells on Sundays, a curfew that people actually follow. It feels like the kind of place where nothing really bad could happen. But everyone who lives here knows there's something else under the surface. A feeling, a pressure, like the whole town is hiding a secret and pretending it's not there. That secret starts with the box. The box. In Dorvale, when you turn 18, you get a box on your front step at sunrise. Always the same hand-carved wood, smooth like bone, no hinges, no lock, no writing, just a small perfect box. Inside there's one word, your role. It's not like a personality test or a fun game. You don't choose it. Once you open that box and read the word, that's your job, your place, your life. Everyone says the box is never wrong. My cousin got caretaker. She used to faint at the sight of blood. Now she runs the clinic and keeps everyone calm when they're hurt. My friend Leo got stone layer. He could barely swing a hammer. Now he fixes old gravestones like he's an artist. People say the box finds the path you were meant to take. No one questions it. No one argues with it. I tried not to think about it, but as my birthday got closer, I started having trouble sleeping. My stomach twisted every time I saw a package on someone's step. I kept thinking, what if I'm the first mistake? What if I get something that ruins my life? The joke. The night before my birthday, my parents acted like we were celebrating. My dad grilled steaks. My mom made her special potato salad. They smiled too much. They kept calling me almost an adult in this weird, shaky voice. After dinner, I met my friends at the fire pit by the lake. We sat around the flames, making dumb guesses about each other's roles. Brewer, someone said about me, because you always bring the good drinks. Archivist, another joked, because you used to write your dreams down like some wannabe scientist. We laughed. It helped for a little while. Then someone raised their cup and said, just hope it doesn't say shepherd. Everybody laughed harder at that one. Even some adults walking by smiled like they knew the joke. Yeah, another friend said, if you get shepherd, you have to go to the clearing. The laughter sounded different that time, too loud, too forced. I laughed with them, but inside, the joke stuck. Like a seed in my teeth, I couldn't get out. We don't have sheep in Dorvale, nobody farms. I had never heard of any clearing, but everyone treated it like an old tradition, a story they all knew, everyone except me. That night, in bed, I brought it up to my parents. They shrugged it off. They said shepherd was an old role from a long time ago. No one had gotten it in decades. The clearing was just part of the story, a warning in case it ever came up again. Don't worry about it, my dad said. Just get some sleep, my mom added. I nodded, but my chest still felt tight. The box arrives. So around midnight, I heard a soft thud on the front porch. I knew what it was immediately. I waited 5 minutes, just breathing, heart pounding. Then I opened the front door. The street was empty. The air smelled like wet earth. Frost sparkled on the ground. No footprints, no tire tracks, no delivery truck, just the box on the welcome mat. It looked exactly how people had described it. Smooth wood, rounded corners, no hinges, no lock. I took it to my room and set it on my desk. For a long time, I just stared at it. My hands felt heavy, like they didn't want to move. Opening your box is supposed to be private. Nobody watches, nobody knocks. My parents stayed in their room. They knew it was here. They knew this part was mine. Finally, I lifted the lid. Inside, on red velvet, was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. One word, right in the center. Shepherd. My whole body went cold. The room felt quiet in a way that hurt my ears. And I read it again. Same words, same letters. I closed the lid and shoved the box under my bed like that would change anything. Into the woods. In the morning, I didn't tell my parents what it said. They didn't ask. My mom watched me too closely, though. Her fork barely moved. Her eyes never left my face. I said I was going to school. Instead, I went to the edge of town, past the houses, past the old feed shed, past the berry bushes no one touches. The trees grow thicker there, like they're trying to push the town back. We're told not to go deep into the woods. Stay on the marked trails. Stay close, don't wander. So that's exactly what I did. I walked until my phone's GPS froze and turned blank. The battery still showed full. The map just stopped working. Hours later, the trees opened up. I found the clearing. The grass was rough and patchy. Animal bones lay everywhere in spirals and piles. Some of them looked human-sized. I tried not to think about that. I didn't know what I was expecting. It wasn't a man. The old shepherd. He stepped out from behind a bent tree, like he had been standing there for a long time, waiting. His skin was pale and dry. His eyes were yellow around the edges. His hands shook, like they had carried heavy things for too many years. He looked surprised to see me. "You lost?" he asked, voice rough and low. "No," I said slowly. "I don't think so." He stared at me like he was trying to figure something out. I pulled the paper from my pocket and held it up. When he saw the word, his shoulders dropped. He sat on a rotten stump, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. "You weren't supposed to be chosen," he said. "Not yet." I asked who he was. "I'm the shepherd," he answered. "Or I was, or I still am, kind of." That didn't make sense. I'd never seen him in town. He told me the shepherd is not like other roles. There can't be two at once. Everyone else assumed he left town when he got his box. He didn't leave. He stayed here, hiding in the woods, doing a job no one talked about. "If you got your box, and I'm still alive," he said quietly, "something's different." He led me to a half-collapsed shack built into a hollow. The roof was sagging. The walls leaned. It smelled like damp wood and smoke. Inside, he dug under a tarp and pulled out a thick, stained journal. The pages were warped and filled with different handwriting, different dates. "This is the shepherd's record," he said. "It belongs to you now." He showed me maps of the town with symbols around the edges. On one page, a short line was written in tight handwriting, "Maintain the boundary." I asked what that meant. He didn't answer directly. He just said that if the work didn't get done, the town would suffer. If he left, the town would suffer. If he died, the work would fall to me. It sounded like a horrible, lonely life. Before I left, he gave me one clear rule. "If you see one," he said, "come to me." I walked home with more questions than answers. The first one, that night, I woke up to a sound on the porch, like dry leaves being dragged across the boards. I got up and looked through my window. Something was standing in our yard, tall, thin, too pale. Its grin stretched too wide across its face. It did not move. It just stood there watching the house. My fingers locked on the window frame. I suddenly realized I was lit up from behind by my bedroom light, standing in a bright square like a target. If it hadn't seen me yet, I was making it easy. I backed away slowly, trying not to make the floor creak. I got into bed and pulled the covers up, breathing as quietly as I could. I didn't sleep. By morning, when I finally looked again, the yard was empty. No footprints, no drag marks, nothing. I ran back to the clearing. The shepherd was already awake, sitting near cold ashes like he had been waiting. "I think I saw one," I said. He didn't seem surprised. He grabbed a canvas bundle and opened it. Inside were rusted tools and a long iron stake covered in strange markings. We followed tracks I couldn't see. He seemed to know exactly where to go. We found it near the edge of the woods. It looked almost human. Same size as a person, same shape, but its knees bent backwards, and its eyes were all black, no white at all. When it saw me, it smiled. "Hey," it said in the voice of my old best friend. "Wanna play?" She had moved away when we were younger. I hadn't seen her in years, but it was her voice, her exact way of talking. My blood turned to ice. The shepherd didn't hesitate. He ran forward and drove the stake through its middle. It screamed, its body bent in a way no bones should bend, but it didn't die right away. "I don't want to go home yet," it whined in her voice, turning its head toward me. Please, just a bit longer. Its hands grabbed the shepherd's and pushed the stake deeper into itself, like some part of it wanted this to happen, like its body knew what came next, even if its voice did not. After a long, horrible minute, it finally went still. We burned it. The smoke smelled like metal and flowers. It didn't blow away like normal smoke. It rose in a thin, straight line into the sky until it disappeared. She didn't move away, the shepherd said quietly. She died. Your parents probably didn't tell you. Something of her stayed behind, stuck. We just helped it move on. I wanted to say he was lying. I wanted to say this was all some trick. But deep down, I knew he was telling the truth. You don't get to leave. I decided that I was not doing this job. The next day, I put on my coat, grabbed my ID, and told my mom I was going to the library. Instead, I walked to the gas station on the highway. A delivery driver was loading his truck. I asked for a ride to the next town. Sure, he said. Hop in. We drove in silence. After a while, the trees opened up. I saw the county line sign. I actually smiled. Then the driver made a choking sound. His hands started shaking on the wheel. He leaned forward like he couldn't breathe. Hey, are you okay? I said. He made a wet, gurgling noise and slumped sideways. His foot pressed the gas pedal all the way down. The truck flew off the road into the ditch. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the town clinic. Same wallpaper, same smell. A nurse pressed a cold cloth to my forehead. You're lucky, she said. Just a mild concussion. I tried to sit up. She held my arm down gently. Then she leaned closer and whispered, You don't get to leave. You're already written in. She smiled like she just told me a sweet secret. At that moment, I knew the truth. The town, the box, the role, they weren't suggestions. They were rules, and I was trapped. The second task. That night, there was a slow knock on our door, 3 times, then silence. When I peeked through the curtain, no one was on the porch. But at the tree line, a dark shape stood and waved. The next day, the shepherd came limping up our driveway. He looked worse than before. Cuts on his face, torn clothes. He was shaking. I need your help, he said. It turned on me. They've never done that before. I told him I was done with half-truths. Either he explained everything or I was out. So he did. He told me about the veil between life and death and how it's thinner here, how sometimes people die, but part of them doesn't move on. It gets stuck. It returns in these twisted bodies, clinging to old routines, places, and people. They can't stay, he said. We guide them to the other side. That's all. That's what shepherd means. It was awful, but it made a strange kind of sense. I need you, he said. Just this once. Finish the one I started, then I'll take it back. He handed me a short black staff carved with symbols and a sealed satchel. Stay on the marked path, he said. Don't talk first, don't run, don't lie. Then he left. Mr. Martin. I followed markings carved into trees until I reached a hollow in the forest. In the center was a stone basin. Next to it stood a thin, gray figure hitting the stone with his hand over and over. Last 2 bowls of pears, he muttered. Last 2 bowls. The voice was familiar. Mr. Martin, the fruit seller from my childhood. The one who used to give kids free apples. He looked up and saw me. Ah, dear boy, he said, smiling. Did you want an apple? They're fresh. My eyes burned. I pulled out the iron stake with shaking hands. I stood there frozen. He wasn't attacking anyone. He was just stuck, replaying his old routine. I can't do this, I whispered. I thought maybe I could leave him there until the shepherd got better. But before I could move, he grabbed my hands. His fingers wrapped around mine with surprising strength. He pulled the stake toward his own chest. Or would you prefer a banana instead? He asked cheerfully, walking forward, pushing the stake into himself. Shock hit me like cold water. Then instinct took over. I pushed. We fell together. I ended up on top of him, driving the stake all the way in as he thrashed beneath me. After a while, he stopped moving. My arms shook so badly I could barely stand. I opened the satchel. Inside were fire-starting supplies, like the shepherd used. I lit a fire in the stone basin. With a lot of effort, I dragged Mr. Martin's husk onto the flames. The smoke rose in a thin line, just like before. I stood there in the heat, remembering the real Mr. Martin, the one who smiled at kids and slipped them extra pears. Then I turned and walked back toward town. The new shepherd. As I walked through the streets, I started seeing them, not just one or two, in the gaps between houses, on rooftops, between the streetlights, tall, thin shapes, standing still, watching. Their eyes didn't glow, but somehow I could feel them anyway. I went to the shepherd's shack. No answer when I knocked, no sound inside. The door creaked when I pushed it open. The air smelled like dust and smoke. I found him in a chair, eyes closed, skin pale. A candle burned low beside him. He was gone. I looked around, at the marks scratched into the walls, at the row of iron stakes by the door, at the journals stacked everywhere full of notes and maps and names. He had seen everything I was just starting to notice. He had carried this work alone for years, while the rest of the town pretended the world was simple and safe. No thanks, no rewards, no one talking about him at dinner, just the box, the job, the boundary. I walked home, not hiding anymore. When people glanced my way, I met their eyes. Behind them, in the shadows, I saw movement, shapes, watching. I heard something deep below the ground, slow and steady, like breathing. For the first time, I understood what my word meant. Shepherd. It didn't mean sheep and fields. It meant this town. It meant these people. It meant standing between them and everything pressing against the edge of our world, trying to get in. The box had chosen me. The old shepherd was gone. So I made my choice. I would take the record, I would take the tools, I would take the fear and the long nights. For Dorvale, I would be the new shepherd. I went to Indonesia's most haunted building because I thought it would make good content. Lawang Sewu proved me wrong. I'd been in Semarang for 3 days, filming abandoned locations for my channel. Most of them were just dusty, empty shells that looked scarier in thumbnails than in real life. Lawang Sewu was supposed to be different. Every local I asked gave the same reaction when I mentioned it: a pause, a small frown, then some version of "just don't stay too late, yeah." It was almost sunset when my Grab driver dropped me off in front of the gates. The building looked beautiful, honestly. Long white walls, tall arched windows, red roof glowing orange in the dying light. If you didn't know its history, you'd think it was a museum or a university. But the closer I walked, the more it felt wrong. The air was weirdly still. I could hear traffic behind me, but inside the fence it felt like someone had pressed mute on the world. I paid for my ticket at the small booth and started walking the path toward the main entrance, camera hanging from my neck. My sneakers crunched on the gravel. A few other visitors were leaving. Families, couples, a group of teenagers taking selfies. No one was going in. At the main steps, an older security guard watched me. His uniform was faded and loose on his shoulders, like he had been wearing the same thing for years. "Maz, you come late," he said. His English had a heavy accent, but it was clear enough. "I just need a little time." I smiled. "I'm making a video. I won't stay long." He looked at my camera, then at the sky. The light was slipping fast. "Basement is closed," he said. "You don't go down." "I thought the basement was part of the tour," I asked. I'd seen YouTube videos about the flooded tunnels where they used to keep prisoners. He shook his head, slow. "Not at this hour. If you hear a voice calling from downstairs, you don't answer. You understand?" Tried to laugh it off, but it came out thin. "Sure, Got it? No answering ghosts? He didn't smile back. You go one round, then you come out, he said. Don't follow any guide inside. Yeah, there were no guides around, but I just nodded. Okay. He watched me the whole time as I stepped into the main hall. The temperature dropped as soon as I walked in. Outside, it had been humid, the kind of sticky heat that made your shirt cling to your back. Inside, the air was cool and heavy, carrying that old building smell. Wet concrete, dust, something sweet and sour under it like rust. The hall was long and high ceilinged with columns on either side and rows of doors and windows. Light from the setting sun leaked in, turning the dust into faint golden smoke. My footsteps echoed. I lifted my camera and started filming. Okay guys, I said quietly, more out of instinct than anything. I'm inside Lawang Sewu in Semarang, Indonesia. This place used to be the headquarters of the Dutch railways, and later during the war it turned into something a lot darker. My voice sounded small in the big empty hall, swallowed fast. As I walked, every door I passed seemed slightly ajar, just enough that if someone wanted to, they could stand behind it and watch. The thought came into my head uninvited, and once it was there, I couldn't shake it. I panned the camera across the row of doors. On the screen, the doors made a neat pattern, light and shadow alternating like teeth. I moved on. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door slammed. The sound was sharp and sudden, echoing through the corridors. My heart jumped, but I forced a laugh into the camera. Okay, so something just slammed, probably the wind, I said. Or maybe the building wants me out already. There hadn't been any wind. I did the usual walk through, up a set of stairs to the second floor, down one long hallway, back down again. The place was emptier than I expected. No tour groups, no echoing voices, just the occasional distant sound of a car horn from outside, muffled. Every so often I would turn and swear one of the doors I had passed was now slightly more open than before. Not all of them, just one or two. A few extra degrees. I told myself I was imagining it. At one point I stopped in front of a tall window with broken glass at the top. Outside, the sky had gone purple, the courtyard already sinking into shadow. From here, the red rooftops looked like something out of a painting. Beautiful, quiet, dead. Behind me, somewhere down the corridor, I heard footsteps. Not echoing, not far. Clear, slow, measured. Step, step, step. I spun around. The corridor was empty. The doors were still. No movement. I lifted the camera and zoomed in, staring at the tiny screen, scanning from one end to the other. My breath was louder than I wanted it to be. Nothing. The footsteps stopped. I told myself it could be the guard checking inside, or another late visitor, or my mind replaying my own steps in the echo. Still, I decided I'd seen enough of the second floor. Back on the ground floor, the light had dropped another level. The hall was dim, edges of the room fading into shadow. A few yellow wall lamps flickered on, weak and far apart, leaving patches of darkness between them. That's when I heard it. A woman's voice, soft, echoing, like it had traveled through water before reaching me. I froze. Mas, Talong? Oh, help. It came from my right, where a row of doors led deeper into the building. One of the doors was open a bit wider than the others, the darkness behind it a shade deeper. For a second, I thought of what the guard had said. Don't follow any guide inside. I swallowed. Hello? I called. Is someone there? No answer. I pointed my camera at the door and started recording again, more out of habit than bravery. I just heard a voice, I muttered, as if whispering made me safer. It sounded like a woman asking for help. I think it came from this direction. When I stepped toward the door, the air changed. It felt thicker, like walking into steam, but the temperature didn't rise. My skin broke out in goosebumps. I pushed the door. It opened with a long, wet creak. The room beyond was small and mostly empty, peeling walls, a cracked tile floor, a high window crossed with dusty bars. But directly opposite the door there was another one. This one was made of heavy wood, low to the ground, with an iron ring for a handle. It was set into the floor. A hatch, basement. I'd seen this in other videos, but those were always filmed in the daytime with guides with groups of people laughing and posing for photos, like seeing it alone at dusk while someone unseen whispered for help. And that was different. Louder this time. Hungry. It came from beneath my feet. I stepped back so fast I almost tripped over myself. The camera shook in my hand, the image smearing. I remembered the guard's warning. If you hear a voice calling from downstairs, you don't answer. So I didn't. I backed out of the room slowly, keeping the camera pointed at the hatch. The voice didn't call again. That almost made it worse. When I reached the corridor, the door swung shut on its own, stopping a few centimeters before the frame, just like all the others. I walked away. I didn't run. I wanted to, but some instinct said not to. Predators chase when you run. A random thought whispered in my head. I kept my pace steady, my breath as quiet as I could make it. My footsteps lined up with the echo of my own recording in my hand. The hall seemed longer than before. By the time I reached the main entrance, the sky outside was a deep navy blue. The courtyard lamps had come on, casting pale yellow circles on the ground. The doorway felt like the edge of a pool, like stepping from one world into another. The guard was still there. He was standing in the exact same place, same postures, like he hadn't moved in the last 40 minutes. His eyes went straight to my face. "You hear them?" he asked. "I heard a woman," I said, before I could talk myself out of it. My voice sounded hoarse. "Asking for help from below." He nodded once, like that was the answer he expected. "They like people like you," he said. "Foreigners. People who think this is content." I bristled, a little embarrassed. "I'm not trying to disrespect anything, I just document." He looked at the camera hanging around my neck. "You document. They also document you?" I didn't know what to say to that. He sighed and motioned for me to follow him to the gate. We walked side by side in silence. I could feel him occasionally glancing at me as if checking that I was still there. At the gate, he finally spoke again. "When you edit your video," he said, "you don't watch it alone, okay?" I tried to joke. Why? Is the ghost going to copyright strike me? He didn't laugh. "Hey, just don't watch alone." There was something in his tone that shut me up. I thanked him and stepped out into the street. The noise of the city hit me like a wave. Motorbikes, honking cars, vendors calling out, music from somewhere down the block. It felt fake, like a movie soundtrack, like I just walked out of a cinema. I kept touching my camera on the ride back to my hostel, as if checking that it was still there, that it hadn't recorded anything it shouldn't have. I started editing that night. I sat at the small desk in my room, fan droning overhead, phone on silent. The walls were thin. I could hear someone talking in the room next door, muffled laughter, a TV commercial in Bahasa. Normal sounds, safe sounds. I imported the footage and scrubbed through quickly at first, me entering the hall, my basic intro, a few pans of the architecture. Then I slowed down when I reached the second floor corridor. I leaned closer to the screen. On the recording, the corridor looked darker than I remembered. The digital grain crawled along the walls. As I walked past the doors, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. One of the doors, halfway down, opened a few centimeters wider after I passed it. There was no hand, no visible movement. One frame, it was almost closed. The next, it was slightly more open, like it had decided on a new position between moments. My stomach tightened. "Probably the old hinges," I muttered to myself. "Old buildings move. on. I kept scrubbing. I reached the part where I'd heard the footsteps behind me. On the footage, my head turned. The camera swung back down the corridor, zooming in. I stepped frame by frame. Between two doors near the very end of the hall, there was a figure, just for a few frames. I almost missed it. If I hadn't been scrubbing slowly, I never would have noticed. It was a woman standing with her side turned slightly toward the camera. Her hair was long and dark, falling forward, partly covering her face. She wore something light-colored like a dress or hospital gown hanging loosely from her shoulders. She was staring directly at me. Then, in the next frame, she was gone. The spot was empty. No transition, no blur, just gone. I rewound and watched it again and again. Each time, she was there for exactly 3 frames, then gone. I sat back, breathing through my teeth, trying to reason with myself. Glitch. Compression artifact. Something reflected from outside. Another visitor. Edited out by the camera's rolling shutter. There were explanations. I skipped ahead, fast-forwarding to the part with the hatch. On screen, I was approaching the door to the small room. My hand shook slightly as I pushed it open. My audio picked up a faint, stretched whisper. Mass. I turned the volume up. This time I could hear something else under the voice, something I definitely hadn't noticed in person. It was subtle, like sound underwater, a chorus of whispers layered beneath the main one. Too many to separate, all overlapping, all right at the edge of hearing. They sounded like they were coming from inside the camera. I paused the video, suddenly aware of how quiet my room had become. The laughter next door had stopped. The TV was off. The fan seemed louder. Remember what the guard said? I looked at the time. It was almost midnight. I hovered the cursor over the play button, debating whether to keep going. Curiosity pulled one way, a deep animal unease pulled the other. Then I noticed something in the corner of the screen. In the preview thumbnail bar where the editing software showed tiny images of each clip, one of the thumbnails had changed. Well, it was from the very beginning of the footage. When I first entered the main hall, in that clip I knew it was just me alone walking through the double doors, but in the tiny thumbnail there were 2 figures entering the building. I clicked it. The main preview switched to the start of the video. I hit play. On screen I walked up the steps, lifted my camera, and pushed open the heavy doors. The lens struggled a second with the change in light, then adjusted, and I stepped in. Behind me, over my shoulder, just before the doors swung shut, something else slipped through the gap. A pale shape, long hair, the hint of a face, blurred and wrong, pressed against the back of my own image like someone photobombing me from another layer of reality. My hand moved on its own and slammed the laptop shut. The sound bounced off the walls. My heart pounded. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the closed laptop, listening. The hostel seemed completely silent. The fan blades chopped the air in slow, lazy circles. Then, from somewhere inside the room, I heard it. Right behind me, soft, wet, too close. I didn't turn around. I grabbed my bag, snatched my keys, and walked out, leaving the laptop on the desk. The hallway light was harsh and yellow, buzzing faintly. The night staff at the front desk looked up, surprised, as I came down the stairs, already asking for a different room, a different floor. I didn't care where, anywhere that wasn't that room. Anywhere that wasn't within reach of the thing that had followed me in through the doors of Luang Seu. I still have the footage. I never uploaded it. Sometimes I think about opening it again, maybe with friends around, like the guard suggested. Maybe try to prove to myself it was just glitches and old hinges and my brain filling in gaps. Then, on some nights when I'm lying in bed and the house is perfectly quiet, I hear it again, floating up through the dark like a bubble from deep underwater. Was too long. And I remember something the guard said in that flat, tired voice. You document. They also document you. So I leave the laptop shut, because as long as I don't press play, I can still pretend it's just a story. The radio crackled once, and then I heard Corporal Reyes scream. Short, wet, and final. By the time we reached his position, all that was left was his helmet, still vibrating like something had been tapping it from the inside. We were stationed near Fort Hellman, a place the Army pretended was just another training area. That was a lie. Every unit that rotated through had one rule drilled into them: never patrol past grid 17 after 2300. Nothing more, no explanation, not even the old sergeants talked. Most of us followed the rule. Then week 3 happened. Our comms started acting weird, not the usual static. This sounded like someone whispering inside the frequency, like a mouth pressed right against the mic. Supply said it was equipment degradation. Our LT said it was atmospherics. Every night the whispering got closer. The night Reyes disappeared, we were on a 4-man patrol near the ridge, fog thick as wool. We kept losing GPS, and our NVGs were stuttering. Green, black, green, black. That's when Reyes wandered 5 meters ahead and stopped. I've got movement, he said, except his voice was wrong, tight, like someone was holding his throat. We approached slow, 5 steps, 10 steps. At 15, the fog swallowed him whole. Then the scream hit the radio. We sprinted, rifles up, hearts banging. His helmet lay in a perfect circle of crushed leaves. No body, no tracks, no drag marks. Just a faint, rhythmic tapping inside the Kevlar, like knuckles against the shell from the inside. Behind us, something moved in the trees. Heavy, slow, wet. We pulled back to the perimeter. The MPs asked the usual questions and wrote the usual lies. Wildlife attack. Separated from the patrol. Under investigation. 2 days later, the whispers on the radio came back. This time, they said our names. We were rotated out 1 week early. None of us argued. Last month, I checked the rotation logs out of curiosity. A fresh unit replaced us at Fort Hellman. Their briefing notes were updated. 2 rules now. Never patrol past grid 17 after 2300. And if you hear whispering on the comms, take off your radio immediately. The Army shipped us out fast, but they didn't ship everything. Somehow Reyes's helmet ended up in our gear cage. Supply said it was a clerical error. I say it followed us. The tapping hadn't stopped. You could hear it when the cage was quiet. Tiny knocks against the inside of the Kevlar, like something testing its new home. The kind of sound that gets under your skin, like teeth clicking. 3 nights after we got home, I found Specialist Harlow sitting in the cage alone, staring at the helmet. Lights off, not moving, just staring. His eyes didn't track me when I came in. His breathing didn't change. He was pale, sweating, trembling like he'd run 5 miles. Harlow, I said. Nothing. I stepped closer. He whispered, "It's talking to me." I froze. "What's it saying?" His lips twitched in a smile that wasn't his. "It's hungry." Before I could pull him away, the inside of the helmet flexed, like something pushing the lining outward. It had shape, form, fingers. The tapping turned to scratching. Metal screamed as the chin strap snapped on its own, and the whole thing slid across the cage floor toward us, scraping like an animal dragging bone on concrete. I yanked Harlow back just as the helmet's interior split, not like fabric tearing, but like a mouth opening. The padding peeled apart, revealing something dark and slick inside, something pulsing. The lights overhead flickered, and then we heard it. Reyes's voice coming out of the helmet, not calm, not human, layered with static. "Grid 17, open the door." Harlow broke then. He screamed and bolted out of the cage, crashing into a rack of rifles. I grabbed a shipping crate and shoved the helmet inside, slamming it shut and sitting on top of it while whatever was in there thrashed. The crate shook for 3 straight minutes. Then it stopped. By morning, the crate was gone. Supply claimed they never saw it. Chain of command stonewalled. 2 MPs disappeared from the arms room camera feed that night, literally vanished mid-frame, and 1 line was added to our unit's security briefing. If any equipment from Fort Hellman reappears, do not touch it. Report to CID immediately. No one said why, but we all knew something got out, and it was still hungry. CID didn't question us. They quarantined us. They marched our entire squad into an old motor pool building on base. Stripped out offices, flickering floodlights, the smell of bleach, thick enough to sting. They split us into separate rooms and told us not to talk to each other. Classic nothing's wrong energy. Hour 3, the lights failed. That's when I heard it. The tapping, not on metal this time, on the walls. Sharp, impatient, moving from room to room like something pacing just outside the drywall. Someone down the hall started screaming, the kind of scream that cracks halfway through like a knee snapping. Then the gunshots hit, close, controlled bursts, then gurgling. The door to my room creaked open on its own. No one stood there, just cold air and Rhea's voice whispering, "Help me." I'm not an idiot. I didn't move. The hallway lights were strobing, and through the flicker I saw drag marks, fresh, wet streaks across the floor, leading toward the loading bay. Big streaks, like whatever did it didn't care about hiding the mess. I grabbed my rifle and followed. Every door I passed had been open, every room was empty, every chair was overturned, like people had been yanked out of them mid-sit. At the end of the hall, I found Sergeant Mason pinned to the wall 2 feet off the ground, not by hands, not by claws, by the chin strap of Reyes's helmet, looped around his throat like a noose, tightening on its own. Mason's boots kicked until his neck went quiet. The helmet dropped the body and turned toward me. Its lining wasn't padding anymore. It had grown long, dark tendrils like muscle tissue soaked in oil, twitching like it was sniffing me. Then it spoke in Rhea's voice again. "Grid 17 is open." The tendrils shot toward me, fast as a striking snake. I unloaded 3 rounds into it. The helmet jerked back but didn't fall. It stretched, boneless, like a spine made of tar. I ran. Out the hallway, out the building, into the cold night where backup sirens were already screaming. When I looked back, the motor pool door bulged outward like something inside was pushing against it. Then it burst. The helmet, now a whole mass of twisting black muscle, skittered out on too many limbs, dragging Mason's corpse behind it like a trophy. It stopped beside the MPs, lifted its head, and used Mason's dead mouth to whisper, "Bring me home." Gunfire lit the whole lot up, but it didn't slow down. It went over the fence like mist. Base lockdown triggered, roads closed, helicopters scrambled. The official report said, containment successful. They lied. That thing is heading back to Fort Hellman. Back to Grid 17, back to whatever opened the door the first time. And the scariest part? Reyes wasn't the first soldier to vanish there. He was just the first to come back wearing his own damn helmet.